So yeah, looking through everything from this year, it was a hell of a 2022. Illinois, Missouri, Oregon, Washington, Idaho, Utah, Nevada, Arizona, New Mexico, Texas, Kentucky, Oklahoma, Arkansas, Tennessee, Alabama, Florida. Not bad.
We actually covered a lot. We covered so much that some of our trips I thought were done in 2021.
I know. Plus, I don't know if you went anywhere without me, but I was also in Massachusetts with Ellie this year.
Oh, no. I don't.
That was actually just back in March.
Wow. I know it feels like we're going to talk about our trip to Dubai. I keep telling everyone it was in 2021. It was just in March this past year, which is so insane. So we've covered how many states total is that?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 for me. And then we're going back to California.
Okay. So 17 for you, 16 for me, 3 countries. Canada.
Yeah, we did Canada, Mexico.
And then UAE.
Yeah.
That's crazy. So all in 1 year.
But I think it's appropriate. We left the very best for last.
We did.
So let's get going on the Dubai episode. What do you say?
I say let's do it. It's a lot of good stuff to talk about.
Check the mic and make sure it sound right, boys.
Hey, listeners. Ever wonder what it would be like to sell everything and travel the country at the tender age of 50? Well, with our last kid off to college and the ability to now work remotely, we've decided to do just that. So we're selling the house, loading up the dog, and hitting every city from California to Florida. We're scouring the country for a new place to call home and dragging you into every restaurant, Airbnb, and tourist trap we encounter along the way. This is the Skip Town All-Stars podcast.
Welcome back, All-Stars. Welcome to another episode of Skip Town All-Stars. Very special capper to a fantastic year in travel for Denise and I. We cannot wait. We have absolutely been sitting on this one for a while. So long, in fact, we had to actually go back and do research.
We did. We normally don't like to have scripts when we're doing podcasts. Sometimes we will if we have a guest. Sometimes we will if the trip was really long, like Texas. I think we had a little outline just because we didn't want to miss anything.
There's so many damn cities there, yeah.
Yeah, but for Dubai, we actually had to do a strong outline, meaning like we had to really remind ourselves of everything we experienced because we did so much in the 8 days that we were there. So you're going to see us glancing at notes once in a while if you're watching us on YouTube because we've got 2 pages of notes of everything that we experienced in Dubai. So it was an amazing trip, and we took it at the beginning of 2022. We took it in March of 2022, long before we thought we were going to move. We did not even know we were going to move at that point.
Yeah, I was going to say, let's set the table. Like we knew Ellie was graduating, and we had plans of putting the house up for sale later that year. Probably.
Or maybe even 2023. Yeah. It was like very loose.
So this is all like pre-skip towning.
It is pre-skip towning, but it's funny because when I look back on my Instagram photos and my videos, we like to document trips. I have so many photos. You would have thought that we were podcasting about our trip there with the photos and videos I took. So there's going to be a lot to share on social media when, when this drops and you check out our Instagram and our Facebook and our TikToks. We'll have a lot of photos from Dubai. And this was pre-Skip Town.
Yeah. I mean, it was just such a unique experience that I felt like we were skirting the line a lot between having our phones out and actually just experiencing it.
I know.
There were sections where I was like, put your phone away, like just be in this moment. It's obviously a foreign country, but it's such a foreign experience. I guess let's just jump into the Dubai episode, right?
Okay, let's do it.
I was fortunate enough to work for a woman, Lily. A few years back, I got a producer credit for doing a documentary for her company, Hollywood Immersive. Real quick, she brings young actors and actresses in from all over the world to have the full-blown Los Angeles Hollywood experience where they're doing scene work on stage. They meet agents, they meet casting directors, they meet any and everybody in that week. It really is immersive, which is why it's called Hollywood Immersive, but it's just an intensive 8-day thing. And they're living in sort of a villa all with each other. Obviously,
and these are all actor wannabes.
They were all actually somewhat established actors in their own country. So,
oh, nice. Okay.
There was a gentleman from Poland there, a couple Aussies, a guy and a girl. There was a kid who had the community fundraise for him in, I forget what part of Africa. I want to say Ghana, but I think that is probably incorrect. But Carlos came all the way from Africa. There were obviously some Brits, maybe a few, I guess more than a few Aussies. So I had the fortune to
work on that show,
basically track them for a week. Yeah. And produce a documentary on it. You can see it. It's Hollywood Immersive. It's on Amazon. It's not on Prime. It's on Amazon Video Direct. She at the time was, shopping around trying to make it a yearly thing. And then of course, COVID hit. So naturally that threw everybody's life upside down, including her intentions with Hollywood Immersive. I hope that she reboots it in the future. However, as we'll get into this episode, she has a bunch of new opportunities that actually arose from her in Dubai. And so anyway, I produced that documentary for her. And we, had always kept in touch. It was a great working relationship. I really admired and respected her and her partner, Simon. Now, Simon does these mega events all over the world. And among them was the World Expo. I think he had done it one time prior, but he was handling all of the merchandise outlets for the World Expo in Dubai in 2022.
But wasn't he also handling the USA building? Or do you call it a tent?
It's a pavilion.
Pavilion, that's the word. Yeah.
So for those of you who, I'm sure a lot of people kind of have an idea what it is, but the World Expo, basically every country on Earth has the opportunity to join in this World Fair, this World Expo, and create an experience that tells travelers from all over the world, sort of what their country's all about. So one of our first pavilions we went into was like the Azerbaijan, with the horses everywhere and all that. Yes. It was a really simple display we would find later in comparison to some of the others. Yeah. But it was just so cool to be able to see these people put together these cultural things that, the average rank and file American has no clue,
Yeah, it gave you an idea of their food, of their dress, of their weather, of their housing, of their commerce. It was really quite interesting. So you go to each pavilion and you learn something. And what I thought was really cool too is most pavilions, now not all of them, but most of them did offer a little cafe, and you can order the fare of that country there. So I thought that was pretty cool. The Americans, of course, had burger and fries.
Of course.
And pizza and hot dogs. Even though pizza isn't our thing, they did have pizza, or maybe they had chicken fingers. I think they had chicken fingers. Yeah, it was
other than TV shows. I mean, that's the best thing we could ever offer anyone in the world, right?
Burgers and fries, for sure.
And so, Simon, Lily's partner all these years, has his own company that basically does the merchandising. And like you said, he was in charge of the actual experience, for lack of a better word, of the US pavilion. And that includes everything from the lighting to the digital displays, to the history, to every single ounce of the exhibit, every person working there has to be vetted by the State Department. There was a lot of hurdles they had to jump through to get that pavilion going.
The State Department the president actually had to sign off on it, if I remember correctly. And Lily said that the State Department was very much involved, on every aspect of what was on display. Yeah.
So Lily obviously was with him for the bulk of the time there, probably from the very beginning.
Mm-hmm. She was. I remember her telling us.
And we, learned from her that immediately upon arriving there, I mean, there was, it was like they were still in the process of building the apartments for the people who would eventually come to work there, the smaller hotels or the whole area around that place.
It's like an Olympic Village, in that they have housing for all the workers and guests that want to come and visit. So literally they built housing just for this World Fair.
Yeah. It's like, also like, right now we're watching the World Cup in Qatar. And so, all these buildings and infrastructure and everything, down to, where are people getting their water, is all sort of designed years in advance. Simon was on board early on to do, so everything, when I say merchandising, I mean, if it says World Expo 2022, a sweatshirt, a t-shirt, or whatever,
A trinket,
hat, a coffee mug, you name it. It came from one of Simon's shops. And Lily was involved with not just logistics, helping him out with those things and helping him out with the US Pavilion, but also she was running the media department in charge of sort of chronicling this whole endeavor by him. And so, long story short, because of my work with Lily and, adjacently Simon in the past, she was so generous to just call me up in March and say, hey, I know I've mentioned to you coming out here to see what's going on. I would really love it if you would be my guest. Now, I work in production, television production, but everybody here knows I'm on the post side. So I never get a phone call to go visit a location, like ever. If you're a camera operator or a director of photography, you get calls all the time like, hey, we need to do a tech scout or we need to do a location scout or whatever. I don't get those calls in my profession. So when the call came in, it came in right in the section of like, I had already planned a trip to Massachusetts and to go see Utah, I believe, with Mia, and then Massachusetts so Ellie could look at a school for volleyball. And I was just wrapping up a job and there were all these things going on. But when I said to you that I had gotten her email, you were like, we got to do this.
He told me about the email that Lily had sent. And then his immediate answer was, I don't know if I can do this, meaning like time frame. Like, how are we going to put a trip into Dubai when a flight is 16 hours and he already has like a full schedule for March? And I just said, you're going to have to cancel something.
Yeah. And I did. And I'm so glad I did. And so there were, I think I was working at a place and they just let me off the hook earlier. They're like, yeah, go ahead, do what you got to do. I cleared my schedule and Lily's colleague, Adam, called me to start booking our flights. She actually gave us an allowance, which was really generous for our flights.
Yeah. And included me because she easily could have just said, hey, James, you want to come out? But the fact that she invited me, it was so nice.
Oh yeah, it's a very important detail. Yeah, you were invited as well.
She paid for me too.
She
did.
She
paid, and she did not have to do that.
She did not. You're right. And so we were thrilled. And I was talking with Adam, and I actually had chosen out flights on Qantas Airlines. And he quickly got back to me and he was like, no, player, like you're going Emirates. So, and I had no idea what the difference was. I just knew it was a hella long flight. We were going to lose a day of travel on one side and a day of travel on the other. The other thing that was pressing on us was the World Fair ended on like March 30th or the very last day of March. We were already in the beginning of March at this point. So we really had to like book fast, figure it out and everything. Adam was super cool. Called me back and just said, no, we're going to book you on Emirates. It's about the same price. If there's a little difference in when you can leave or not, you guys can pay the difference. No big deal. So he did. And I'm so glad we did because when we got to LAX, we had the option to go into the Emirates lounge. Let's talk about, let's talk about how LAX sucks and then how awesome the Emirates lounge is.
Oh yeah. LAX is a dump. So you've heard it from presidents. You've heard it from everyone that if you fly into LAX, it's a complete and utter dump, and it is. And then when you go to other countries, you really realize what a dump it is. But the Emirates Lounge is clutch. Like seriously amazing. Like, so Emirates Lounge was like just something that a friend had said to me on a passing. She knew I was going to Dubai and she said, oh, are you flying Emirates? And I said, yes. And she goes, okay, you have to go to the Emirates Lounge. Generally, the way it works for the Emirates Lounge is I think if you're flying business or first class, it's obviously included. If you're flying coach, then you have to pay, I think it's $100 per person.
Yeah, it was super reasonable.
That sounds really expensive, $200 to sit in a lounge. But when you see and walk in and eat all the food they have, it is for sure reasonable. They have showers in there. They have beautiful leather couches that people were laying on who were waiting for, a flight that maybe was going to take 5 hours. They were on an overlay. What do you call it? Layover. Yeah. So, The food was incredible. I mean,
It was like 5-star dining.
It was, and then they had like all different kinds of beverages and drinks you could want. We were the riffraff for sure. Like everyone that was in that lounge, there's no question. Everyone that was in that lounge was like decked out from head to toe.
Yeah, guys in suits.
Yeah, they were all flying business or first, and we legit were the riffraff. But you know what? I was so happy I was happy they let us in. Like, honestly, that was like one of the best advices I was given on that trip. There were several good tips. That was in the top 5, no question, like Emirates Lounge. Then we did it on the way back at the Dubai airport. Oh my gosh. So whatever I'm explaining to you about the LAX experience, just throw that in the trash, because the Dubai experience was like the 4 seasons at the airport.
Yeah.
And it was not just a lounge. It encompassed, I want to say like the whole airport. I don't know the distance that it encompassed, but it was massive.
It seemed like the lounge had its own level across the body of the airport.
Yeah. I that's what it felt like.
I mean, that's where their hub is. So naturally.
In the Emirates Lounge in LA, they had it was one room, eating area. No, this was, you can go to different rooms to eat. They had showers. They had a play area for the kids, couches, like loungers everywhere. It's incredible.
Yeah, bartenders, all that.
Yep.
So
TVs, whatever you want.
It kind of puts whatever United is doing at O'Hare to shame, right? Isn't that their main hub?
Yeah, that is their main hub. Yeah, we can stop talking about that because that's a joke. Yeah.
So anyway,
the flight is 16 hours.
So you want
to get well nourished and well refreshed with beverages of whatever your choice is before you get on that flight. Now, Lily was awesome and generous, but she was not paying for us to fly first class or business. So we were handling this 16-hour flight coach, which is something that I want to talk to everyone about because it's a decision that you can make. We had decided to fly straight through. I don't know if I would do that again.
The reason for that was because we only had 8 days between when we were able to leave and when the expo closed.
Yeah, that was our fault. That was not something.
Yeah, that had nothing to do with.
No, it was a booking decision that James and I had discussed that would work in our schedule. So, but I would say, unless you're going to fly business or first, and who can really afford that? I mean, it's thousands of dollars where you lay down and you get foot massages and all of this crazy stuff. I would suggest stopping over in like London, in England, something like that. And that is something that we learned on the way, meeting other travelers. So many people had said to us that when they were flying a long distance, it seemed like Europe was the halfway point. So people would stop, spend 3 days in England or Paris or Germany, and then
Amsterdam, you name it.
Yes. And
we should have done that. We would have done that had conditions been a little different.
Yeah, because flying 16 hours in coach is brutal. We did get up and walk around. Well, I certainly did. I didn't want my legs swollen.
We had to. I mean, everybody was doing it.
Yeah, but on the way back, I was really bad. I did not do it, and I had really swollen cankles. Like I legitimately had cankles when I got off that flight. Of course, you have all the free movies, and they're very, very good about bringing snacks around, ice cream, wet warm towels for your hands or your face. But you're still on a 16-hour flight in coach with, I swear, like 300 people. Like it was a big plane. It was a big jet. So,
I was going to say the service that we received was on par with like what you would expect on a Virgin Airlines or, and in terms of price point, it was amazing to get, like, we're just used to getting our nuts punched every time we get on a flight in the domestic United States. No frills, pay for your sandwich, all that stuff. And it was like almost anything we wanted was included in the price of the flight.
It was great. Again, my recommendation though, stop, lay over for a couple of days in a beautiful country if you have the time, and then finish your way to Dubai. Otherwise, when you get to Dubai, it's brutal. Your body aches for like a good day. You're really messed up. I mean, we were walking around the World Fair the first day and you're foggy. And for any of you that have traveled overseas and on a long flight, you know what this means. Like you're legitimately foggy. Yeah. Your senses aren't keen. We met with Lily the day that we got there. And I just remember I was just struggling to like not yawn, keep my eyes open, and be clear when I spoke because I was literally walking in a fog. And
but let's rewind for one quick second before we get to us wandering aimlessly sharing a falafel
Yeah.
around the World Expo. And that is the most impressive thing about Emirates airline was they got about 400 or 500 people on this plane in the span of 15 minutes, and we were in the air. There was no bullshitting.
Nope.
There was like,
I don't know
everybody
how they did
goes through, everybody's going through screening. I mean, it did look like, the running of the bulls when we were getting on the plane, you know?
It's true.
And everybody settled in. And the next, like you and I were just sort of converted, like, like settling in, getting the seatbelt, figuring out. We were fortunate enough on the way there. We didn't have anybody in the middle seat. And so
that's right.
we had we knew we were going to have a little extra space. And so we were just getting settled. And the next thing they know, they were like, no, really settle down. We're about to take off. And we were wheels up. We were out of there. It's the fastest I've ever left an airport after getting on a plane. Like
I do
physically
think
being
that
on a plane.
foreign travelers, because we were with a lot of foreigners on that plane. I would say as Americans, we were the minority. We're probably only 20% American, 80% from a different country.
Yeah.
Foreigners, I think, know how to travel.
Yeah.
They don't fool around. Like they're in and out, even in Mexico.
The plane was ready to go when we left. There was no
it's the Americans that are like
people like fishing around with meal carts and all that stuff.
And Americans are like, Sylvia, do you have my bag? And she's like, I have it, Ethel. And it's like, and while we're standing there waiting for them to get it overhead, and then you got some guy who's just talking in the middle of the aisle. Like Americans are so rude, and they just think that like you should wait for them. And that's what holds up these, like all these foreign travelers were like, boom, boom, boom. They got in their seat. They threw their stuff up there. It was like, let's get rolling.
Yep. It was like, let's roll. And we did. And so, to your point, we got there late in the evening. We had physically missed a day because of the time change. Like it's literally half the world away.
Yep.
So
it's a 7-hour time difference.
Yeah. So we got there really late at night and, quickly.
Meaning we're 7 hours ahead in Dubai.
Yeah. It was like Americans were still experiencing the 23rd of March and we were already on the 24th when we landed.
It was
or whatever
actually kind of cool.
Yeah, it was. It was awesome. So we land, we crash. I don't know. We had trouble sleeping, I think, if I remember right.
Yep,
but then, like you said, we woke up in a fog. We're wandering around. So Lily's like, okay, meet me over here. And I believe we had to sign out of the hotel every single time we left. Is that true?
No.
Or no? Okay.
Just signed in the one time.
The one time. Okay. And so the hotel, I say, was actually like a living space. It was basically an apartment for staff members.
It was like a condo. It was like a 20-story building. It was a 2-bedroom, 2-bath with a living room, television, kitchen. It was a legit apartment. Yeah.
And so we went over, we got our credentials, got into the expo, all that business. And we were walking around. We were starving at that point.
Yeah,
and we just ordered, I think it was like a Tarna wrap or something from one of the.
It was good, though.
Delicious.
Yeah, yeah. God. At that point, I mean, like but it was legitimately good. It wasn't just that we were starving. We got it from a shawarma food truck, and it was not like a shawarma that you get in the States. It was so good.
It wasn't like a crappy Encino shawarma.
No,
it was a really good one.
It was really good.
And so then we met with Lily at the Australian pavilion, if I remember right.
Correct.
Which they also had a hand. I think Simon was actually doing the merchandising for that.
Okay.
I don't think he was in charge of the pavilion. Maybe I'm wrong, but I know he was definitely doing all the swag.
Okay.
So anyway, we met her there. We talked for a little bit. She knew we were tired. She knew fully what to expect. And basically at that point, I mean, the whole emphasis for me and meeting Lily there wasn't just like, hey, a pat on the back, great job on my show. It was also like, we're chronicling this. We want you to be involved with the future production of whatever this thing becomes. We want to do a whole piece on it. We're thinking maybe a Netflix show or whatever. Some of that stuff's been tabled now. There's just volumes and volumes of footage. There's a guy named Ben who I met, really nice guy, who is from, I think he's from New Zealand. I think he's from Australia.
I thought it was New Zealand, but go ahead.
New Zealand. So he's still slogging through all that stuff, and to be determined in 2023, I guess, what's going to happen with that.
I think
that was the whole thrust of us being there.
If I remember correctly, she said we could have just sent you footage, but we really felt it's important for you to see the vastness of the World Fair, like the World Expo. You could see it. Look, you're gonna. One day, if it happens, you'll obviously make others feel like they are there. But she really wanted you to be there to really get a feel. She kept saying, I want you to get a feel of what this is.
Yeah, and an understanding of the whole operation.
Yeah, it was pretty incredible because
it was incredible.
The magnitude of it. the magnitude of it. Yeah. You had to see it. It was amazing.
So, as we would find over the next day or two, there were several pavilions. It just depends. Like if you're talking about industrialized nations, Germany, United States,
England,
China, whatever, like they would have massive sort of cornerstone pavilions.
New Zealand's. It was the guy that did Lord Peter Jackson. It was incredible.
Was that New Zealand's?
Yeah,
I thought that was. I forget what that was. There was so I think you're right. But there were also some cornerstone pavilions that talked about that were more Earth centric.
Oh, for sure.
In terms of,
they had three
I
of
thought
them.
his was one of them, but maybe not. I think you're right.
Could be right.
Because he had all those sages with the big.
You could be right. He may not have done the New Zealand pavilion. I may be confusing it because he's from New Zealand. I think he did one of the Earth pavilions, which is about. I think his pavilion.
It was either time or history or something like that.
Yes. You're right. Because there was a history pavilion, a time pavilion, and a water pavilion or something.
Yeah, Echo Pavilion.
Yes, that was it.
So those were kind of the cornerstone ones, which were fantastic. We didn't go in every single one of them. Frankly, after seeing Peter Jackson's, it was kind of we went into one or two more, I think, and it was nothing compares.
You can't hit the World Expo in a day anyway.
No.
So even if
you have trouble hitting it in 3 or 4 days.
I was going to say you would need 5 days. We were there 8 days, and I think we literally went there 5 out of the 8 days at some point during the time we were there, whether it was in the morning, afternoon, or evening, because we wanted to see different parts of the day. We still didn't hit everything. We barely hit half, I feel like, but 5 days you would get a good feel of it. It's just waiting in line because the pavilions sometimes have lines.
Yeah, the big ones have lines. There were a couple I had to skip. I think Switzerland's was really good, if I'm not mistaken. I went to Japan's, that was good. I went to Spain's, pretty cool. The United States one was fantastic, and there were several more that were on par with that. You go into the United States one, and you're basically on a conveyor belt, and it's taking you through this digital experience, and there are just cubed screens everywhere. So it's everything from George Washington to Steve Jobs.
Yeah.
It's a fast primer on being an American.
Yeah.
And then you go into the one of the main exhibit rooms, and they had the Mars rover, a replica of that there. And then you walk outside, and there's SpaceX. There's a SpaceX rocket right in your face. You look up and you're like, oh my gosh, that's not a column. That's the actual rocket.
Yeah.
So
I mean, it was a replica, they said, totally. But it was a life-size replica.
Yeah. It was to scale. So that was pretty dope. The US Pavilion was great in terms of outside aesthetic. They had the LED lights representing the American flag and all that stuff. It was done up really nice. And so we took in as many exhibits as we could over those days, but there came a point where it was kind of well, let's just go meet Lily for dinner and go do something else. She was really great about telling us to not spend our entire time at the expo. She had other recommendations. Let's get into that.
Yeah. So first of all, I want to talk about where we stayed because that's important. So we stayed basically between Abu Dhabi and Dubai. We were about 35 minutes from Dubai. So we were closer to Dubai than Abu Dhabi, but we were south of Dubai and really in a more, there is no such thing as an industrial area there, but more of the desert. I mean, the whole thing is desert, but we were really on the outskirts because the downtown city of Dubai is exactly what you have seen on TV. It is so modern, so high tech, so beautiful with architecture. And we were 30 minutes outside of that. They needed space to create the World Expo. So think about a place like that where they could put hotels and all of the pavilions and
they're basically building a city at that point.
Exactly. Weather, let's talk about that.
Yeah.
We were in late March and it was high 80s. So we had to obviously dress accordingly to their rules, but also know that it's March and it's warm. I mean, the one thing that I'd like to talk about is going back to what to wear.
Yeah. I kind of glossed over that when Adam called me. He not only fixed our flights, but he gave us really sound advice.
Yeah.
For you.
So There are many rules. If you're familiar with the Middle East or any history or rumors or whatever, have friends who've traveled there, all that stuff is true. There are lots of rules. And one of them being is what you can wear. Let's just start as a visitor. So as a visitor, you have to be covered, male and female alike. So no shorts for men.
I mean, we saw people mostly from like, I don't know, the Nordic countries, it looked like, and maybe a few Americans wearing shorts at the expo.
It was
after
so
being
rare.
there for just a few hours. If I had worn shorts to the expo, even though it was kind of hot, I would have felt really out of place wearing shorts.
Yeah. I mean, we were there for 5 days and I maybe saw 7 people not dressed appropriately.
Yeah.
And a couple of them were men who were wearing shorts and the rest were women. So
yeah, there were a couple of girls. Like I remember walking around the expo, we saw maybe 2 girls that had like tank tops on. And it was like,
they're crazy.
What are you
like
thinking?
I would not even, it's so disrespectful. So when you go to another country, we talk a lot about traveling in the States. You know what to expect when you're here. Do whatever you want. But when you go to another country, you really should abide by their rules. And the UAE, they have a lot of rules on what you can and cannot do in public. And dressing is one of them. They want your shoulders covered.
Yeah.
They want your stomach covered. They want your legs covered if you are a visitor.
They didn't make you wear a burqa.
No, they don't
Right.
make you wear a burqa, but those are really specific.
Like, they want you to dress very conservatively.
Yes. I had a real problem with that because I live in tank tops. I live in shorts. I actually had to go out and buy a couple pairs of pants because I was like, I don't want to wear jeans the whole time.
You're an infidel. You're such an infidel.
I wasn't, because I dressed appropriately.
I know. You changed your tune.
I did. And so I was having a hard time with it, but I ended up, like, in the end, it was just fine. I brought exactly what I needed to bring. And I have to tell you, everyone asked me this when I came back about clothing. Everyone, it was the first question, like, did you have a problem, clothes? I did have to wear my clothes a few times. And I knew that because I thought when I got there, I would buy a couple of things. But the truth is, you do not want to shop when you're there. If you're only there for like 8 days, I wanted to enjoy it. I didn't want to be in a fitting room. So I had to wear some of my clothes a couple of times. But it's kind of nice going to a place, I'm not going to lie, where everyone dresses well. I mean, there were no like bellies hanging out with half tops. There were no ripped jeans. There were no like boobs everywhere. There weren't ass cheeks hanging out. It was like people dressed really pretty. And everyone would ask, well, what were people wearing? So if you weren't in the traditional dress, if you like weren't an Emirati, then you were wearing linen pants, linen blouses that covered your shoulders. A lot of people wore cute linen jackets with like little spaghetti strap tank tops underneath it, but the jacket obviously covered their shoulders, with a cute pair of linen pants or a long linen skirt. Linen obviously was the fabric because it is so hot there. Everyone looked really pretty. I mean, it was like even the men, they had nice slacks on, they had nice shoes on. And if you were, a native, you obviously were wearing the long cloaks. But yeah, I don't know. Like after 2 days, I actually didn't mind the dress requirement and felt like we should impose that here.
Yeah. I mean, you could tell some of the people who were not as well to do, perhaps like my version of the middle class, who were wearing like white long, like the gentlemen who were wearing white flowing shirts with black pants and black shoes. You could tell the fabrics were different.
For sure.
From group to group. And so naturally you say, okay, well, maybe these people are visiting from wherever, like Pakistan or something like that, as opposed to, well, we didn't even see any Emiratis, but we'll get into that later. Yeah. But, you could tell the families
Yep.
that
Absolutely.
had a little more money, and not just because the guy had a few wives trailing him.
Okay, we'll talk about that because
Yeah.
that was something that we were clued in on when we got there.
But I do want to mention that, speaking of seeing groups or whatever, or couples, no public displays of affection
that's
are
my
really
next rule.
appreciated. Yeah, very frowned upon there. Not a lot of holding hands, not a lot of husbands giving their wives, because I actually had to stop myself like several times where we were like standing in the queue, like a longer queue waiting to get food or wait. I didn't realize how much I just like, sort of
Paw me.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I just put my grubby hands all over you all the time. And I don't even like, it doesn't even register with me because it's just like something I do, and sometimes it's to fuck with you. And sometimes it's because I'm really feeling affectionate. But either way, the bottom line was there were a couple times where I'd like put my arm up and then quickly put it back down. Like I'm moving to like put my arm around you. And I was like, oh shit, I can't do that, So
there were actually signs up that have people holding hands with a circle and a line through it. And it was displayed like in areas where you would see them. And it would say no hand holding, no personal display of affection in public, I think was the way that they had written it on their signs. So, and what was interesting is you would be looking at this sign, right? And you're like in a public area, like let's say a park. And then you'd see a husband and wife with a baby carriage. And to me, it was such a juxtaposition, the word or an oxymoron, like they clearly had sex, these two.
Yeah.
They created this baby, but they were not allowed to look like they were a couple.
No.
Like it made no sense to me.
Exactly. It's really funny because some of these rules that, we're discussing, like I know people have a problem with these, especially, as women in the United States, you'd be like, I'd never subjugate myself like that. And that's totally appropriate. Like that's what we believe. Like we totally, but it's kind of like, if you're going to someone's house and they are, I don't know,
vegan, you don't bring meat.
You're not going to bring like a slab of pork with you to say, hey, can I also throw this on the grill? Or if somebody's like, if somebody's evangelical, you may go over to their house for dinner and you're like, you're not going to say anything like averse to Jesus. I mean, look, I'm not going to go like jump in the river and take a bath with you. But at the same time, it's like, I'm going to respect your cultures, your beliefs, it's your roof, it's your casa, like whatever you say goes. Whatever, like when you come to my house, I don't have too many rules, I guess, but the biggest thing is just show mutual respect for everybody. And so naturally as travelers, I think the more you get into this, you're like, okay, like we're here for a week, we're going to roll by their rules. So if we take public like if we didn't end up taking the subway,
public transportation is
the train,
amazing though, by the way. What's another thing I'm getting to?
It is, but had we taken the train, you would have gone with the women in your car. I would have been with the dudes in mine.
Yep.
And I would have been the only one, I still fully clothed, but I would have been the only one probably not wearing a white shirt. So, but it's like when in Rome, do as the Romans do. It totally applies. If, and that's fine. If you say, well, they're so authoritarian or they're guilty of these crimes or the crimes against humanity or whatever, it's okay. Don't go. You have a thing where you're like, if we were to go to Thailand, you wouldn't want to go to a city where pedophilia is allowed.
Nope, would not. I already told that. I told that to him. Yep.
Yeah. So it's
so I wouldn't
kind of
spend my money there. I'm not going to go.
Yeah. So if you don't want to go, don't go. However, when in Dubai, you kind of have to do Dubai shit. So
you do.
It's really
and the one thing that I wanted to mention, going back to clothing a little bit, is I did a little dive into what the locals wear, because what tourists are asked to wear, which is what I just explained, shirts covered, shoulders covered, tummies covered, legs covered. Women, we can wear, obviously a blouse and pants. The women there have to dress a little differently. And so I did a little research on what it is that they, what it's called that they have to wear. But really quick, before I go into that, I had many people ask me about photos that they've seen on Instagram or TikTok of women in bikinis in Dubai or in really, really short dresses and high heels and tank top dresses in Dubai. Like, Where are these photos taken? That was a great question. I learned while being there that those photos are generally taken at their resort. So you can dress very Western at any resort you're staying at. So for instance, we took a day pass and went to the Ritz-Carlton. They have a beautiful beach and it's on the Persian Gulf. So we spent, it was like $50. It was so reasonable. And we spent the day at the Ritz-Carlton. Well, that's where the girls are in the bikinis. That's where you'll see like people dressed really pretty at the restaurant and like, their sundresses or their, high heels. And that's where the photos are coming from. Generally, when you're out in public or, in Dubai, since it's so darn hot, almost the entire year, they have these huge malls built that are really just small cities. They have actually skiing in them. I know it sounds crazy, but they do. They have ice skating. It's a place where you go.
Yeah. They had a hockey rink in the one mall. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a place where families go to spend time with other families because you can't do it outside. So the men will gather. They have movie theaters. Women will shop. Kids will ice skate. So in the malls, they do ask you to adhere by the clothing that is required outside of the resort. Once in a while, like I saw a couple of they definitely weren't Emiratis. They were foreigners dressing like more risque in the mall. And I did notice that like some photos that I had seen on Instagram were probably taken in the mall, but that's like a huge no-no. Like you just don't want to do it. But in any case, bikini shots and all of that you see on social media, that's all at resorts located throughout Dubai.
Right. And real quick, I think it's important. So we keep saying we didn't see any Emiratis. We haven't bumped into any Emiratis. So I actually looked it up. The difference between a sheikh and an emir. Do you know the difference between a sheikh and a emir?
I think a sheikh is from Saudi Arabia.
They are. However, the legacy of the Emirates having the land that they have is because they were actually military commanders. So a lot of the military commanders' families have evolved into the emirs, as I understand.
Because there's 7 families that rule the UAE.
Yeah, and so they were basically the commanders of, I think generations ago,
Got
obviously.
It.
Whereas a sheikh can actually just be a cultured or an educated person, maybe even a priest. I don't think it's a priest, but I forget the name of the word. But anyway, the difference is like you could be a highly educated sheikh and not necessarily be in the military. So but within within that, and somebody's going to correct me if I'm wrong, but a quick dive told me that within that region, the Emirates became what it is because that's essentially people of high military command that were given those lands.
Okay,
at some point.
That makes sense because there's only, I believe, 7 families that are the ruling monarchs of, and I say monarchs because there's 7 families and each one rules a different part of that country. But okay, that I did not know that. So thank you for telling me.
There you go.
Okay.
And all the Emirates, the Emiratis, the reason we don't see them, maybe we saw some at the mall because that's where everybody congregated.
So yeah.
But the reason you don't see them is because they actually work in government ministries. Like they're not running the Cinnabon,
Oh no, they're higher. They're like literally businessmen. They're higher up on the hierarchy of their society.
Right.
Like they're doctors, they're lawyers, okay, now we're going off subject, which is fine. I'm not going to talk about clothes anymore. So we'll talk about the Emiratis. So one of the things that we noticed, and we mentioned this to every single person that asked us about our trip, is that when you come to the States, or for us, like we went to Mexico, everywhere we went, we interacted with Mexicans. They were our tour guide. Mm-hmm. They were the girl who was serving us ice cream. They were our waiters. They were the girls taking our tickets when we went in somewhere. Like they're everywhere. They're locals. When you come to the States, you will always interact with an American. They'll be your waiter. They'll be the guy at the gas station. They'll be the checkout girl at the grocery store. They're working at Disneyland. So here in Dubai, that is not the case. We never once interacted with an Emirati. who we did interact with were all immigrants from other countries. We interacted with Pakistanis. I think
the cabbies, yeah.
All the cabbies were Pakistanis. We interacted with Afghanis. Most of the shopkeepers were Afghani. We interacted with Filipinos. We interacted with Africans. I physically saw Emiratis, and the only way I knew that they were Emiratis were because they were driving the Bentleys and the Mercedes, and they had the wives following them. And again, we didn't realize this until we got there, that when you see a man and he's like at the mall, and he has 4 or 5 women with him, those are all his wives. Like,
I think they're
had
allowed
no
up
idea.
to 6. Is that what we read?
I read it's usually 4, but it also goes with the amount of money that you have, because each wife has to be
supported.
That's the word.
She needs her money
equally. Like, they have to have equal support. So if you have 6 wives, then you are very wealthy.
It sounds super expensive.
Oh, we're talking oil people. Like,
I know.
They
got money to burn, literally.
Literally, they put gold on their cars. So yeah, so 6 wives is not that big of a deal. But remember, Lily said something about, like, I don't know, she heard someone over saying it in a meeting or something like that, that this one Emirati who said that his wives were costing him so much money, he didn't know if he was going to be able to make it, like meaning financially. And it was like, I was laughing because he said he just bought one, like a Mercedes, and the other one wanted a Range Rover because he bought the one a Mercedes. Right. So it seems complicated, but it works for them.
Yeah. I mean, it totally works for them.
So yeah. So when it comes to interacting with locals, when you go to Dubai, don't expect it. You will, unless you're a businessman.
Yeah.
I don't think you're ever going to meet an Emirati. Not where we went. Certainly not in the restaurants we went to. They were dining. We saw Emiratis all around us. We saw them with their wives. We never once interacted with them because they aren't the working class.
Yep. There's a hierarchy there.
Yeah.
And I think we were on the lower strata of that
For
hierarchy.
Sure. One of the things too, you had mentioned about noticing like differences in wealth with the way people dressed. As a woman, you saw it with other women because the women wore what's called, and I have it right here, it's called an abaya. Okay. And so I'm probably, or a kaftan. So hopefully I have that right. I had to look up the names. There are a couple different names, but it's the silks that they wear on their body. It's not the, I'm not talking about the burqas. This is like the beautiful silks that they wear on their bodies. And they're usually, their heads are covered, not their faces though. But you could tell the wealth of that woman by the silk. Like, they just looked expensive. I'm not going to lie. And now their hands and their feet can be their hands and their feet don't have to be covered. So the wealth was also shown on the jewelry they had on their wrists because those always poked out. I'm not kidding when I tell you, I saw dozens of diamond encrusted Rolexes on these women that just would peek their little arms out of their silks, and like the Jimmy Choo shoes. And
that's so funny. You pick up, I mean, being a guy, it's like,
okay. Everyone had a Birkin, like an Hermes Birkin bag. So you saw the wealth by the shoes, the handbag, and the jewelry on their wrist. I mean, it was incredible. And then with the men, you could see it with the shoes they wore and their silks also. So, the men wore, James says, the white shirt, but it wasn't just a white shirt. Actually, the men wore what's called kanduras, which are, it's Kandura. And they're the white outfits. It's a shirt and a pants. Now, from my understanding, what I researched is that the longer, it's actually a robe. I'm sorry, I'm calling it a shirt, but it's really a robe over the pants. But the longer the robe, the wealthier the man.
Ooh.
So Pakistanis would wear them shorter, maybe like, I don't know, other families who didn't have that wealth but are Emiratis would wear them shorter. But the longer the cloak, I call it a cloak or a robe. So I'm so sorry. I know there's more of a proper name for it. It's kaftan. But am I saying that right? No, kaftan is what the women wore. And it's called kandura for the men. But the longer it was, the wealthier they were.
Well, I'm really glad I left my half tops at home because I would have been forced to wear them if we were ranking apparel on financial ability.
Okay, you would have to wear it over your knees.
I know. I would have.
Yeah.
It would have been like a long nighty t-shirt. I would have been like, sorry guys, I can't compete with oil money,
I have
man.
$20 in my wallet.
I work
Sorry.
at TV.
So anyway, so clothing's a big deal because it displays to everyone your wealth. And also, are you a local? Are you a tourist? Like, I mean, so clothing, we talk about a lot because it actually.
I'm so glad you're telling me all this now, because if I would have known this kind of stuff when we were there, I was already just in a catatonic state of wonderment everywhere I was going. I would have been paying so much attention to that stuff.
I know.
It would have been totally distracting for me.
I knew when I was there, like the silks with the women. So I was just like, oh, I would look at their shoes. I'd look at their handbag. I mean, I was like, oh, I would see.
I know, but that's like biological for you, right? Like
It is.
women do that.
I do look at shoes everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like women do that.
Yeah,
Guys are
I
like,
do look
hey
at
man,
handbags.
what's up? What's up?
I know, but when you can't see their clothes and all you have are the silks that they're wearing, you then have to realize like
Facts. I get it.
And it shows.
I understand.
Okay. And then let's talk about like one of the other rules that was told to us right away. And you know this already about the Middle East, no crime. Like you can commit a crime, but you're going to suffer. So tell everyone what the first thing was that Adam said to you about don't worry about.
Yeah. He's like, you're really not going to need your laptop for your visit with Lily. And I didn't want to take it with me anyway. He said, but if you do bring your laptop, just know it's the type of culture where if you're standing up in a coffee shop and you leave your laptop on the table, you can come back an hour or two later and that laptop will still be there. And I said, you're kidding me. He goes, yeah, theft is a big issue when people legit are losing their hands over getting caught stealing things. So you get like I forget how it was, $6,000 fine and your hand chopped off if you're caught stealing stuff.
$30,000.
$30,000
fine.
So it's a little more pricey. That's a lot of cab rides you got to give to make that $30K back, especially when you're doing with one hand.
It is hard to drive a cab, I would think, with one hand.
I would imagine. I mean, a lot of cars are automatics, but you saw the way these guys were driving on the freeway. They were like riding each other at like 80 miles an hour.
Oh, easily. Like easily riding.
Like 14 inches between us and the car in front of us.
Yep. It was
I think
like.
you need two hands for that.
Yeah, you could be right. So a one-handed cabbie would not work well in Dubai.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, you don't have to clutch your purse. You don't have to worry about like someone pickpocketing you.
Yeah.
I mean, they're so afraid of losing their hand. That will not happen. And I have a great story to tell you about this.
Go ahead.
James and I were in the old city of Dubai, which has all these shops, and I'll go into like what that is in a minute. But I walked out of one shop and had to find James. Now, my phone was dead, so the guy had offered to charge it for me. So I handed it to him, and I was looking around the store. Well, James was literally off somewhere, and I had no idea where he was. He was looking at
swept
something.
me up into some other store trying to sell me shoes.
Yeah, and so the guy at that shop had a friend, the shop I was in, and he said, oh, I know where your husband is. I'll take you. I was like, okay, fine. It was like a maze. I'm not going to lie. And right, left, up 3 flights of stairs, go to the left now, turn right. Anyway, I found him looking at shoes.
Sure. They were like, where'd the big stupid American go?
Yeah.
Where's he? Where's that? They were doing like the measurement with their, no. And they're like the big one. And they're like, oh, he's at Joe's shoe shop.
So I found the big one at Joe's shoe shop and we were there and I was just chatting and I said to him, oh my gosh, I had been in this store with James for now like maybe 10 minutes. It took me another 5 to get there. So good 15 minutes had passed and I realized I didn't have my phone. And I said, oh, I left my phone, but the guy who brought me to James's store was gone. He went back to the store I was originally in. And I said to James, I'm never going to find that store. I'm never going to find the store. And one of the guys in the store heard me and he said, no, they called. They're bringing your phone. And I said, who called? He goes, the guy at the shop. Yeah. He called. Literally, as he's saying that, the shopkeeper of the store I was originally in walked up and said, here's your phone. You could have
that shit wouldn't happen in Beverly Hills, let alone like.
Oh no, let's just talk about
Koreatown.
No, let's
LA.
just talk about, if that were in LA and my phone had been missing for 15 minutes, my Chase account would have been hacked. Somebody would have been buying a car with my social security number. My phone would have been dismantled. I mean, forget it. And getting it back, that to me, like, I couldn't believe it. I literally couldn't believe it. Then we went into another shop and we were talking to a local there. Well, no, not a local. He was from Afghanistan, but he was a shopkeeper. And we were just talking about what brought him there. And we talked about theft. And he said to us, like, he had been in Dubai, I think it was a few years, like 3 or 4 years at that point.
There, he said he was there since the fall of Afghanistan.
Oh, okay. So he'd been there for 8 years, right?
That happened early on in Biden's presidency when I think
it was not. It was definitely Obama, because he was telling me that they left.
So he had been there a while.
Yes, they had left like interpreters behind. No, it wasn't the whole fiasco at the airport. Absolutely not. It was when Obama came in.
So he'd been there a while.
Yeah. So he'd been there.
So he was there during the other debacle.
Yes. So he was there, I think, for 7 or 8 years, because we were talking at length about like how interpreters were being murdered and all of that, who had helped the Americans, and then they were just left behind.
Yeah.
All that to say, he was telling me, like, you know, that the laws in Dubai are very strict. And he said to me, this is exactly his example. He was in a shop. He worked in this big, huge, like, trinket store, like for tourists, you know, like you can buy like little statues and candy and this and that. And he said, you can put a bar of gold in the middle of this shop right here and no one would take it. And I said, why? And he said, the penalty is so high. He goes, a bar of gold right now is, I think he said, like, what was it? Like 50, it's like, what was it? I think he said something like, was it $1,500? No, a bar of gold is like,
That's an ounce.
An ounce. So he was talking about an ounce of gold. And then he just said, like, the bar of gold, he gave me a number. And he said, if I stole it, it would cost me a $30,000 fine. That's how I know the number. He said, and I would lose my hand. He said, so there's nothing worth it. He said, so now I can't work. He said, now I owe the government $30,000. He goes, that bar of gold will never equal like me having a hand. He said,
that's never a truer statement spoken.
He said, there's nothing worth it. That was his exact words. He goes, there's nothing worth losing a hand, paying a fine, and going to jail. And when he put it that way, I just thought to myself, honestly, why can't, of course, like, now it's going to be crazy talk, but why can't we enact laws that are more strict? Because they don't have prisons there. Like, they have jails, and of course they have probably a couple, but we have hundreds of prisons that house all these people. So it's like, if the fear of losing your hand is greater than that of breaking into someone's home, robbing them, traumatizing them for the rest of their lives, I say we put laws in place that put the fear of God into our criminals in the United States.
I think there could be some fear of God introduced. I'm not sure the barbarism of chopping off somebody's hand is applicable, but like we do have,
there'd be a lot of
in the Constitution, we have this whole cruel and unusual punishment thing.
Stop. If you knew that you were going to lose your hand when you broke into that
Absolutely,
car,
it's
you would
deterrent.
not break into the car. I wouldn't have to replace my window on my car, which I've had to do in LA because it was broken into. People have to literally replace so many broken things because our house was robbed for like a couple of stupid ass costume rings. It's like, no. If you thought that you were going to lose a hand, would you rob that convenience store?
The answer is, of course, no. But my point is, people are locked away or executed, and that doesn't stop them from killing.
They're not executed enough. They're just not. They're not executed at a high rate. They go into jail. They're there for 40 years before they're executed.
All right, we're on a different time. That's another episode.
It is. But my point is that if people had fear higher than just going to jail, getting 3 meals a day and being locked up, there was a real fear of punishment, of being maimed. They wouldn't take your purse.
God, white lady,
they wouldn't
settle
take
down.
Your purse.
Holy shit.
I'm tired of crime in America. I'm just sick of it. Like, I'm legit sick of it.
All right. Let's move on.
Okay. You haven't been robbed enough. That's your problem.
Oh my gosh.
You really
I don't have
haven't.
anything worth stealing. And so let's talk then about Old City, because it was recommended by Lily for us to go there. And we took a cab.
We went to the historic district first.
Yeah. We got breakfast there. I remember some sort of Lebanese egg dish.
No,
it was so
Kuwaiti.
good.
It was Kuwaiti.
It was Kuwaiti, yeah.
Yeah, and let's talk about the food. So you talk about the food in Dubai.
The food in Dubai is as Middle Eastern as you would expect on many levels. However, there's definitely a Parisian element to some of the restaurants. We actually went to was it Vietnamese or a Thai restaurant that we went to in the mall? We got to talk about the mall
that was
itself,
Italian.
too.
That was actually Italian.
That was one place. But then we also, that one night we had
that was
I remember
incredible.
I had
that was
hot
Thai.
pot.
That was Thai. But that was like, that was like a version of Thai. Cause that was like
the seasonings,
crazy.
The taste experience, and reasonably priced. I mean, it's not like
some of our best meals were in the mall. And when you say the mall, you're thinking like the mall with AMC Theater and like Panda Express. No, this is not that mall. Again, I'm going back to the malls are their cities. They're covered small cities. You couldn't spend an entire day in the mall. You wouldn't make it. Like every mall has 5 Gucci stores because they want to make sure that they have a Gucci at every entrance and exit. When I say it's a small city.
So we'll get back to Old City in a minute, but since we're on malls, let's talk about this. The Dubai Mall. Okay, first off, when we said, okay, where's the section of town we would go to get restaurants? And you and I were just looking for like a promenade type experience.
We were.
And the kid looked at us like we had bats flying out of our head. And he was like, why wouldn't you just go to the mall? And we were like, you're kidding. Like, you eat at the mall? And it was like, all I could think in my head was Mall of America.
All I thought about was like Fashion Square in Los Angeles.
Like,
I'm like, I'm not going to Panda Express.
I was thinking like, okay, it turns out I think we're going to eat at the World Expo like every single day while we're here. Yeah. And he's like, no, go to the mall. Trust me. So the Dubai Mall, quick fact, 275 acres, this mall.
Yeah,
275 acres. It's 12 million square feet. I looked it up just a little while ago.
Yeah, because you can't hit it the whole day. Like when I say to you,
there's no way.
No.
And they have like the top shelf, like you were saying, the Gucci's, the Rolex,
Louis Vuitton, Hermes.
But then they have all kinds of like sporting goods stores.
Oh, the Dick's Sporting Goods would be like, it wasn't in there, but it would be like that big of a sporting goods store. Like they have that. It's not a small little version.
No. It was like a massive store, and you could get like, obviously like guys need pants there. So you can just go get like comfortable like golf pants to walk around in or whatever. They had an Air Jordan store, not a Nike store, just strictly Air Jordans.
They did. It was awesome.
Everything from the Air Jordan line was in just this store. Like they had so many specialty shops like that. They had a Puma store with exclusive Puma designs for the shoes that you can't find anywhere else other than in Dubai.
Yeah, and that was one of the things that someone told me before we left is that the clothing that you find in Dubai generally, like not everything, but generally like the majority of what you're going to see is just designed for Dubai because it's such a mecca for fashion people to come and purchase that they know when they come to Dubai, they're not going to get something that they're going to see themselves coming and going in Paris or, or in London. So when you go to Dubai, like he said, I could have gotten a pair of Pumas there. I never would have seen anywhere else in the world legitimately because they were made only for this Puma store in Dubai.
Right. Like a Lacoste sweatsuit.
Yeah.
Which I would have looked fantastic in rolling around here in Florida, by the way, with a medallion on my hairy chest. Would have been fantastic to purchase there. I abstained while we were there because our luggage was already full. But so anyway, this mall really is like the congregation place. And then that was the Dubai Mall. But then we went to a second smaller mall, I guess, that was called Mall of the Emirates.
That was huge.
And that one was actually closer to where we were staying in World Expo Village. We were staying closer to the Mall of the Emirates, and we just went there one day. It was like as we were nearing the end of our trip, and we're like, let's just kill some time here and get lunch at this place. And the food was like every bit as incredible as the big mall.
5-star restaurants are in this mall, are in these malls, and they're small cities. 5-star restaurants. Now we didn't eat at 5-star restaurants, but we ate at really good restaurants. And going back to the historic part of of Dubai, when we ate at that Kuwaiti restaurant, that food was incredible. Like,
yeah, just, I mean, the food itself, everywhere we went, I think we maybe had one meal that was a miss, but it was only because we were eating at one of the pavilions at the World Expo.
maybe.
But
But you can get anything because we had Greek food,
Yeah.
and the Greek food was phenomenal. We had Asian with Lily. That was phenomenal.
Yeah.
Like, so it's not just a Middle Eastern food. It's whatever you want.
Yeah, and they really are striving for the best cuisine of any, cultural influence, Italian, French, you name it.
You're right.
And it's just, I mean, the food is excellent. However, the thing that I was most impressed with was, okay, so obviously it's a Muslim country. Not a lot of alcohol being poured at everywhere you go. In fact, you can get it. You can obtain it. Like
on the resorts.
There are places you can get it at the resorts, or we could have got it at the Ritz-Carlton or whatever. We did actually. We had like a beach drink or something. But I didn't feel a need because they had like the craziest, like non-alcoholic, like it's so weird.
Wherever
These drinks
you
were
went.
insane.
Yeah.
They were so
like a
tasty.
cucumber watermelon with a spritz of like mint in it. Like it was like, but they weren't cheap. Like they were $15.
Oh no, and they were like all garnished out or whatever.
Yeah,
and I was
they were
like,
as
the
expensive
shit these
as a
people are
cocktail.
doing with a couple juices and some soda water was really insane. I couldn't believe some of these drinks.
And wherever you go, you can get fresh squeezed juices. So for instance, we're in the historic section. We're at this tiny little hole in the wall. When I literally say hole in the wall, the tables couldn't even fit inside. The tables were outside. And we were ordering breakfast. And again, we knew it was from Kuwait, that the food fare was, because it actually said on there, like it said the name of the restaurant, then said, Kuwaiti restaurant or Kuwaitan fare, whatever their verbiage was. I looked at James and I said, wow, I wonder if they have fresh squeezed juice here, because every place we went to did. And this was like a little tiny like place. And I said, well, I'm going to order an orange juice. It's probably going to be like Minute Maid, but it's fine. No, how they fit a juicer in this place. It was fresh squeezed orange juice. It was so delicious.
Now you could buy those like bottled juices or whatever in their like local markets or whatever. But if you go to a rrestaurant, I think 90% of the time you're going to find something. Yeah. Like what we're talking
get like
about.
Blueberry mint spritzers. Like it was amazing.
We dipped in and out of the mall a couple times, but now we're back in Old City, and we were in the historic district across actually from Old City. Old City is your sort of quintessential marketplace, like open air marketplace, where you see
on TV,
where you see Jason Bourne running through it and knocking down blankets and carts full of pottery and stuff like that. It really was like that sort of frenzy. Everybody's bargaining with you the minute you get off the ferry. So, the view across the river, I forget what the name
it's actually called the Dubai Creek.
The Dubai Creek. Okay.
I think that's
so we took a ferry across after. So it was nice and mellow in the historic district. We were walking around, little shops, all that stuff.
It was like something out of a movie.
And then we got off this ferry, and I swear, like
mayhem.
It was like
mayhem.
It was
I think I saw Jason Bourne running.
It was like getting hit by a swarm of locusts. I swear to God, it was walking through here, and immediately like. We had guys like throwing the cloth on my head and wrapping me up like a sheik. And I'm like, I'm not so sure this is like culturally appropriate back in the United States.
Definitely was not.
And so, but they're
not culturally appropriate there. It's not culturally appropriate there.
I mean, I guess it was fine because they were the ones doing it, but not a look I wanted to sport around. I already stuck out like a sore thumb. So I towered. Not over everybody, but I think there were a lot of situations where I was at least almost a foot taller than many of the people.
Oh yeah, I agree.
So, and especially in the old city area, I definitely like that became apparent to me. I was like, oh, I'm at least like 8 inches taller. Like I could see you across a sea of merchants, like all swarming for your attention and trying to sell you silver and jewelry and all that other stuff.
It's true. You did. The area I want to point out. So when you go to the historic district, like he said, really quaint, very quiet. Then you take a boat, go across I think it's called the Dubai Creek. You go across the creek, although it looks like a river. And then that's where mayhem is. Each area of that old city is called a souk. So you had
that's right. I forgot about that.
The spice souk. So it was shops upon shops of just like honestly, worldly spices flown in from every part of the world, whatever the native spices to like Africa they would have there. I mean, people come, from my understanding, to Dubai sometimes just to buy the spices. So if you can get on a plane and you can fly and get your favorite spices, people do it. That's what I've read. And by seeing it in person, you can understand why.
Yeah.
Then they had like the gold souk. Talk about that. That was crazy.
The gold souk. I don't remember.
Oh my gosh. It was gold everywhere.
Well, yeah, but
gold,
I mean, there was like a lot of...
it was like gold animals in glass cases. Like, are you kidding? It was like...
all these like
it was
statues that were like...
It was like Scarface. Like you're like literally walking in South Miami, Scarface, like a big drug king has like these gold... It was gold, not just necklaces and little pretty earrings and bracelets. Yeah. No, they had like gold statues in cases that you could buy from a jeweler. So it was just gold upon gold, everything gold. Then they had like the perfume souk where like you can get the oils that, you know, are really coveted by the people in that area because they have like such beautiful essential oils. And it was just, again, shops upon shops of oils.
I quickly got swept up into the shoe souk. Because I think the guys quickly realized like, okay, he's not going to wear any of our traditional garments. They quickly just wanted to sell me t-shirts and sneakers. And I was up for it. I mean, I had just purchased a pair of sneakers at the Dubai Mall that I had on, but I was like, okay, you know, whatever. And they're showing me, you know, like
Gucci knockoffs, stuff like that. But they all look crappy. They weren't even made of leather.
But it was really more about the experience. They were like, no. Okay, wait, come with me. And then you would like go up and down these stairs. Oh, so there's the main drag for all the open air markets. No, we are back in the apartments and stuff where it's like 0 dark 30. And
it's true. It's true. I didn't even know where he was. We were separated for about an hour. And this was when I was in the one shop and he was in the store with me. It was a jewelry store. And there was just like silver stuff, costume stuff. And that's when the gentleman said, oh, you need a shirt. You need a shirt. And James like, I need a shirt. I go, yeah, you need a shirt. And I just wanted him to like have his own experience. Like who wants to hang out in a jewelry store? And then he was gone. And I was like, oh my God, I've seen this in movies.
Yeah,
like,
I didn't want to be like that guy because I was like, okay, like this doesn't look legit, but
it wasn't.
In fact, I'm pretty sure I saw this street on Black Hawk Down. However, I didn't want to be like closed-minded. So I was like, it's okay. And he's like, it's okay. Come on, come. And I had Adam's voice in the back of my head saying they don't steal anything. So I was like, well, hopefully they don't murder people either. So, and it turns out they didn't murder me, as you can tell. But yeah, he had me in all these shops up and down. Strangely enough, I didn't buy anything. I ended up buying a Ravens ring I really liked. It was like, or a Falcon. I thought it was so great. And, you know, getting back to LA, I think it broke within like 3 weeks or something like that.
We were not in like the finest like jewelry place. It was like super cheap. But in any case, when he got swept away for his shirt that he never bought, I really thought I'm never going to find him. Like I don't, because it is literally like go down a hallway, turn left, turn right. And I said to the shopkeeper that I was in, I said, how am I going to find my husband? He goes, oh, no. He's like, he'll take you. And like another kid pops in.
It was like a constant rotation of people like, hey, does he need like button-down shirts? And you could tell they were talking back and forth like, oh, are they looking for silver? And it's just whatever they were in their language. And then you'd see like somebody would pop into the shop, like, send him my way, man. Send him my way after this, you know?
Okay, so wait, you got to tell them. So then, okay, we end up finding each other. Yeah. Clearly. And then we went and we found, once we left there, we made our way to like this really nice shop where I met the Afghani worker who was not the shopkeeper, but an employee. And we ended up buying like, oh my gosh, so many things like candies and nuts and like,
gifts. Yeah.
Gifts, like beautiful gifts. Like it was all really good quality, very like from what we could tell, very well made. I even got some things for myself and we were hungry and his English was excellent. Oh, by the way, did you know if you are going to work in the UAE, you have to speak English. It is a requirement that you speak English. Now,
even if it's not a tourism job or anything?
Nope, you have to speak English.
Wow.
Yep. So, so going back to the Afghani, his English was very good. And so I had asked him where we should go to eat.
Well, he was an interpreter, so I hope so.
I don't know if he was an interpreter.
He said he was.
Oh, I thought he was something else.
No.
Okay. okay, then his English was very good because he was an interpreter. But I just thought that, when I found that one little tidbit of information, like, oh, they had to speak English. That's why his English was so good. No, maybe he was an interpreter. Okay. Any case, we asked him where to eat and he said, oh, I have the perfect place for you. And I said, okay, where is it? He goes, I'll take you. And I kept saying, no, just show us. He's like, no, I'll take you. Like,
yeah.
What happened?
Oh my gosh. Okay. So we're back on the main drag going through streets and he pulls us over. There's this
we're walking.
we're walking. There's this tiny little cafe. They have an outdoor area
it's
where
packed.
it's packed. It's totally full. And then they have about 4 tiny little 2-top tables down the one side. So it's basically like a counter. You can go in, you can order, and then you could sit either outside on the street in their little courtyard, or you can sit at one of these 2-top tables.
Do you remember though, when we walked up there, I looked at him and I said, this place is packed. Yeah, there's no wait. And he goes, no.
Like you said, we don't want to wait. We don't want to wait. He goes, no, you're not going to have to wait. And he walks up into the thing and there's a manager there who's kind of like young guy, managerial
do you
type.
Remember he yells across the street, hey, he yells in his language.
Yeah.
And he like do this and he goes, and he points to us. Do you remember that?
Yeah. He's like, we're coming, or whatever he was saying to them. And then we get up there and the guy's like, he shrugs at first and then he looks around and he realizes that at one of those at 2 of those 2-top tables, there were 2 guys sitting separately, one at each table. And he turns around and he's like, hey, get the hell up. You're going to sit with him now. And these 2 are coming over here. I could not believe it. I was like, wow, we're like getting treated like royalty in this little place. And it was like, and the guy looks at us and he's eating like, I remember he had a shawarma and it was stuffed with like chicken and French fries. They love to put potatoes inside the shawarmas. And so
he was like
there were like French fries hanging out and he's like looking, he's got a mouthful of food. And he's like, and he goes, and then he just like picks up his plate and walks over and sits down to the other guy. And they give each other like a little head nod. And he's like, what's up? And then they sat down and they're like, what can I get for you? Like, right. It was nuts.
Crazy. I said to James, what just happened? James goes,
I was like, they just told Lenny he's got to sit with Stanley and like, don't give him any shit over it.
That's exactly. I said to the guy, I turned to him, I literally said to him, you just kicked him out. He goes, oh, it's fine. It's fine.
Yeah, he said, it's fine. It was as if he turned around and goes, listen, if you 2 assholes think you're going to sit by yourselves and like take a couple tables away from us, it's not going to work out. You get up, go over here. It was just like so administerial, I guess, for lack of.
It was crazy.
And the guy was like, okay, whatever. And so
he did it.
Culturally in the United States, we would have been like, go to hell. Right?
Oh, you would have been like, make me move.
Because we're so like we have our 18 inches of personal space at any point, and we don't ever want to share a table with a stranger unless, God forbid, we've been walking 6 miles with our wife who's looking for shoes, and we just want to have a little smoothie.
Yeah,
or
then
something,
you'll share a table with somebody.
Yeah, you're like, you mind if I sit here? And you're like, no, dude, go ahead. It's like no big deal. But in the manner that he was told to get up and move,
it was not
nice.
He
was totally compliant.
Yeah.
It was not nice, but he was totally compliant. And I just know like that shit would have never, ever happened here in the Villages.
Oh, could you imagine if somebody came up to you and said, we need this table. We need you to sit with Larry.
Yeah. You'd be like, Larry who? I don't know Larry. Why would I sit with Larry? It's like a whole conversation.
You'd be like,
no. And so you can see it in airports all the time. I mean, there were like a person here and then 3 other people sitting, like a person sitting 3 seats over at the gate. And you're like, we're 2 people. So either we're sitting by this,
oh, I know. We're weird.
We're sitting by this chooch or we're sitting by that chooch, and so it's like, whatever. Anyway, so.
And it was really good food.
It was really good. And it was really fast. And it was exactly just what the doctor ordered because our Kuwaiti breakfast had definitely worn off after all that activity running up and down streets. So we had a fantastic time there. You got a lot of gifts. Doled them out when everybody got home. And
how when you're visiting an area, like, so we're done with our meal. We're wrapping it up. We take the ferry back. And like, even when we were in Mexico City, nighttime starts to fall and you have to be a little careful. Not in Dubai.
No.
Nighttime falls. You like can have your purse wide. You can have $100 bills coming out your purse. And you're like, nope. They're like, nobody's going to rob you. Nobody's going to mess with you. Nighttime's rolling around. You can still do whatever you want.
We're back on that. Huh?
We are. Nobody's going to rob me.
Okay.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
They're going to get their hands chopped off. Anyway. So we did that, but there was one other thing I wanted to mention just in terms of landmarks, if I can wedge this in real fast. And that is the Burj Khalifa.
Oh, you want, yes. So you should
So the
talk
Burj
about it.
Khalifa, going back to the main Dubai Mall, the Burj Khalifa is the tallest building in the world, bar none. For those of you Mission Impossible fans, there was one, I forget which version of, like maybe Mission Impossible 3 or 4.
I think it was 4.
Something like that, where Tom Cruise is literally, because
Scaling.
he's like, Mr. Scientology and nothing can hurt him. He's made of Teflon. He was actually scaling the building, as you're in the lobby for this tower. So I decided I was going to take this elevator all the way up as far as I could. And you decided, hell no.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And for reasons we're all aware of.
Mm-hmm.
And in my head, I was kind of like, maybe I'll just do this if we ever come here again. But then I remembered that time in Paris when I said I was going to go to the top of the Eiffel Tower when you didn't want to go. And funny thing, I've never been back to Paris to go up the Eiffel Tower. All this talk, all these years. So I was like, there's no way I'm not going up the Burj Khalifa in Dubai. So, and you were cool with it. You walked around and you were doing your thing. Because there's a mall attached to it that's 240,
that's amazing.
45 acres or whatever. You were fine.
Mm-hmm.
You were like,
take your time.
I know. And so anyway, so this building is 160 floors. There's a scene in Mission Impossible where Tom Cruise is on the outside of the building by a cable. It's a pretty action-packed scene. They play that in one of their lobbies. You go up a couple levels at different stops, and then eventually it shoots you up. So you can see all of Tom Cruise's scene and the making of the movie and how he was literally outside the building. I saw recently there was a photo on Instagram or something like that of him literally sitting on the spire at the very, very top of this building. This building is...
that's insane. I can't even think about that.
The building is 2,700 feet high. So it's basically, I believe that's over half a mile high. It's 160 stories. It has the most stories out of any building on Earth. It is the largest freestanding structure. So obviously, like as you're going up, they will show you, oh, we just passed the Eiffel Tower. Oh, we just passed the Sears Tower. Oh, we just passed whatever the hell that was in China. And so,
wow, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. And so, I got up to, I think I went to the lobby on the 126th floor. I could have gone a level up at 148 or something like that, like one stop up, I should say, at 148. That's like the highest place, but that was all like penthouse and penthouse pricing. And since I was just there on a quick trip by myself, I was like, there's no way I'm paying like $300 to go up to that.
Was that how much it was?
To get to that level. I went to the one underneath. It was still $180 if I remember, something like that. So worth every penny. You get up there, there's an observation deck. First off, there's like a little lady serving you sandwiches, going back to the food. Incredible coffee, like espresso, you name it. So you have like your little snack and you have a little cup of coffee. And then all of a sudden you look outside and you realize, holy cow, like you can see
I can't even think
for
about that.
miles and miles and miles. And it was actually kind of a cloudy day a little bit the day I was up there. There's a building. Okay. There's a building in the same area that is 60 floors high. It's called the Colte Facades. It is a 60-story building, two towers, two 60-story towers connected by an infinity pool in the middle of it. I could not see the people who were sunbathing or swimming in that pool. I couldn't see them. That's how high I was above them. I could see what the hell the structure was, but I couldn't see, like everything was fuzzy. That's how high we were above this place. So
you took some amazing photos, which I'll post on Instagram.
You could see the Persian, like on the one side, you could see the Persian Gulf.
Mm-hmm.
And so you could take pictures. Like I tried to take pictures all the way around the building. We do have to post those. Like we always talk about posting stuff and then we never get around to it, but
I do. I post it on Instagram.
You do, but I'm just saying, like, we have entire photo dumps we could do if people really wanted to go through them. So, but that's, I don't know. It's like, I don't want it to be a traveling slideshow, but anyway, maybe I'll make them available if anybody's quaintly interested. So all that to say though, this building was incredible. It is the flagship of we haven't even talked about the architecture in Dubai.
I know, it's incredible.
Whoever designed these buildings, all the designers of these buildings, when you're seeing these modern metallic and stone structures that go up 60, 80 stories, whatever it may be, 50 stories, doesn't matter. And then you look at them and it's like there's this distinctly Arabic feel in the shapes and the designs to it. It's pretty intense. Like I could tell you as somebody who got happy that like I replaced a kitchen shelf once or a cabinet drawer, to see these buildings as a dude, I'm just like, holy shit. Like people built this thing. It's pretty nuts. The architecture alone, they actually have the deepest dive pool in the world. I think it's like 200, 300, almost 300 feet deep or something like that.
Where is it?
It's just a structure in one of the
hotels.
Yeah. One of the buildings or the hotels. You can go there. Yeah. If you're a diver, you can dive. It's the deepest pool you can dive in anywhere in the world.
That's
they
crazy.
have like so many structures there. And as you're going up the Burj Khalifa, they talk about like how the emirs all got together and said, we need to make this a destination. We want to like, you know, I mean, look, the Middle East is kind of a gnarly place sometimes. And we've been going on now for about an hour and a half about, Dubai as being this like beautiful place. I mean, it really is the shiny, happy face on
for sure
the Arab world.
Yeah, they want to bring Westerners in, and they did an amazing job of doing it.
It's tough to argue with it. I got to tell you,
because they really cater to you too. Yeah. So you're right. It's very hard to argue it. Agreed.
You're like, I don't mind wearing pants all damn week if everything's like this.
Yeah.
So
and it just there are so many things that like we haven't even talked about, like that they infuse that is obviously their culture. Westerners, like James said, have to be okay with it because you're visiting, but they make everything so lovely for you that you are. Like the prayer horn. They sound a prayer horn throughout the day when it's time for prayer. Well, you know, as a Westerner, you're hearing the prayer horn, people are going to pray, and look, you're visiting them. So you're just going to have to deal with that prayer horn.
I got to say, you know, especially as a casual viewer of television and everything and movies over the years, it's like when you hear those prayers, we've been sort of like, it's dog whistle for us as Americans to be afraid.
I know, it's true.
So there was like that underlying current. Like you would think they're totally living in, you know, a backward society or what have you. However, the one advantage that I've seen to their way of life is that they have a lot less homelessness, as in almost zero compared to what we're used to.
Definitely they may, in some people's mind, be living backwards in certain rules that they have, but they're definitely modern on so many other things. And the homeless issue, definitely modern. The way they're handling their homeless issue is the right way, and I don't know what way that is. Like I have to actually research it to tell you, like, you know, where are the homeless people? Do they have shelters? My guess is that they don't, and I'll tell you why. A friend of mine is an executive at a production company, and she actually met with like one of the wives of one of the families that runs the UAE. But she went there, very high security. Obviously, she's going to one of the monarch's houses. And she said that she had tea. It was really lovely. It was the wife plus a couple other people. And one of the questions that the wife asked her was, why don't Americans take care of their people? And my friend was really taken aback by that, did not expect that question. And she said, what do you mean by that? And she said, well, you let your people live on the street. She said, we take care of our people. She said, we would never let our people live on the street. So when we got back from Dubai and my friend told me that story, it made sense as to why we didn't see homeless people. So to tell you that they have shelters set up, I'm guessing, but I don't think they do. Just from that woman who's married to one of the ruling class saying they take care of their own people makes me think that people must be living at home with their families. Now, it doesn't account for mental illness. Like, I don't know what they do with that. Like in America, if you have family members who are like, have committed a crime or have been in and out of jail, you're not so prone to take them in and take care of them. But because crime really isn't an issue in, a city like Dubai, then you talk about what makes someone homeless. If it's because they're mentally ill, then what does Dubai do about their mentally ill? They must be doing something, because we didn't see anybody living on the street, and we traveled all over that city. I mean, we went to an area, we went through the historic district, we went through a really rundown area, which is kind of funny to say that Dubai has a rundown area, but it's more of an area where all of the service workers live, and you could see the apartments with like the lockers on the balconies and stuff like that. So it's like one of those situations where there's probably like 5 or 6, people live into an apartment. So when I say rundown, that's the area I'm talking about. Still no homeless. So they have their mental illness taken care of somehow. Crime, we know, isn't an issue.
So much of homelessness is driven by, especially in the United States, is driven by drug abuse and
mental
addiction.
Illness, drug abuse, and crime.
And so when you're talking about a society that isn't very tolerant when it comes to a lot of bullshit, let's face it, their drug abuse problem, their drug problem is a sliver of what the United States drug problem is. I'm sure it's a crime to be doing heroin out in the street,
Yeah.
And so removing that factor that contributes to homelessness. And then to your point, I mean, obviously there's some sort of infrastructure that when a person becomes uncontrollable, for lack of a better word, to a family where they just can't provide what's needed for that person who has mental health issues.
The government must provide
then
for it. Then
obviously there's some sort of infrastructure there that, it takes care of them.
That's a deep dive and one that I haven't done, but it is noticeable. So if you go to visit Dubai, you will notice there's no homeless.
Yeah. For all of the things that we would sort of rip on them as Westerners, to our friend's point, when she was visiting with her colleagues, they have a handful of things they can lob back our way that we could be doing differently in our country. So, so anyway, just, I don't know, moving on.
Ended the trip with, I think the last day that we were there, we really just hung out in the area of the World Expo, enjoyed the last remaining hours of being there, and then headed back to the airport, which, by the way, I don't know. This is a fun fact that James found out. They have 5,000 cab cars. So cabbies, 5,000 fleets of cars that will take you anywhere around the city. So there's never a moment where you're waiting for a cab. Literally, we took our luggage, went down to the corner, got a cab within minutes.
Yeah.
Minutes, like minutes. Like we didn't even have to stand there for maybe more than a couple. So yeah, that city has a fleet of 5,000 cabs to make sure you are everywhere you want to be when you want to be there. And there's never waiting.
Yeah, that's right. I remember because we had to wake up at 4 a.m. We were just worried.
I was so worried
about missing our flight.
Yeah, that we weren't going to catch a cab though. I was so worried we weren't going to catch a cab.
Yeah, totally. And we booked it the night before, and sure enough, it came out, and the guy was totally waiting there, ready to go.
Yep.
So, all's well that ends well there. I mean, it was really an amazing trip. We talk about some of these things that, we've done at the top of the episode. I listed all the places we've been this year. It isn't really beating my chest, I've been here, I've been there or whatever. It really is just to be that testament to somebody to say, hey man, you could really travel a lot more no matter where you're from, pick and choose your battles. And when the right opportunities fall in your lap, like Dubai fell for us, I mean, there's no way I could say no, given,
But there's so many people that would, because it's frightening to travel that far. It really is scary to travel that far for some people. Some people don't like to leave their comfort zone. But look, we wouldn't be doing this show if we were two people who didn't like to leave our comfort zone.
Yeah.
So,
totally.
So you did the right thing.
Well, so, but again, it goes back to just, I like the fact that we have spent the last year traveling to all these places, and to be able to do it again next year going into 2023, anything we could do to sort of kick people in the ass and say, hey man, get out there, there's a whole world out there, no matter what your station, no matter sort of where you are in your empty nesting and all that, or how close you are. It's been an incredible year of life-changing events. As you know, it's been a handful of moments where I've questioned things, but ultimately I wouldn't have traded a single minute of this past year, you know?
That's so good to hear, because
Yeah.
I know it was hard for you, a lot of the stuff with selling the house, especially. Like, I had to handle my business, meaning literally my business, and you handled the house. And I know it was, we did not plan on selling the house as quickly as we did. We were going to do
Yeah.
it at the end of 2022 or the beginning of 2023. So to throw a house sale in with all of these adventures we've taken, I know it really wore on you. So I'm glad to hear that you thought it was worth it.
Yeah, I mean, you got to take the good with the bad, and especially, recognizing that, like, it was a very transitional time, and to be on the other side of that and to be able to work remotely now, truly, and to also be able to, obviously I'm looking forward to the next phase of jaunting around the country with you.
I'm looking forward to it as well with you.
You say that now.
I may quit again later.
And so, but just, like it really is, a load off, just knowing the kids are sort of in their own respective places in their lives and, more or less taking care of their business. We've had some flare ups and stuff, where the kids are sort of having tough times or whatever, but that's, that's life. That's to be expected. But,
Yeah.
As for this calendar year, I think this is the best way we could have, like, Dubai was really the crown jewel for us, despite everywhere we've been in the United States, or, I should say North America, to be able to go there and be able to talk about it is just really what I hope in 2023 is a sign of more things to come.
I hope so as well. And it's funny because I've had people say to me, oh, Dubai's on my bucket list. Dubai never made my bucket list because it just didn't seem ever attainable.
Yeah.
I mean, it just didn't. And to go to a country so far away, not knowing anyone, just wasn't something I thought I would ever do. So having Lily there,
Yeah.
her feet on the ground, navigating for us where we should go, what we should do,
Totally.
made all the difference in the world. So Lily, thank you for the adventure that you gave us, something that James and I had never even considered. Again, it was not even on our bucket list. I mean, I know it wasn't on mine. Was it on yours?
I mean, it's one of those places where it's like, yeah, it'd be nice to visit there one day.
was it on your bucket list?
But I haven't been to Italy yet.
Right.
You know what
so
I mean?
It wasn't
it's
either.
like,
It was not on either of our bucket lists. So thank you so much. We couldn't have done it without you.
it should appear on a lot more bucket lists based
really
on our
should.
experience there and
Yeah.
the opportunity Lily provided for us. So thank you again, Lily. A reminder to all those of you who are skipping town for Dubai for a couple weeks that
Yep.
you should really consider Anytime Mailbox. I frankly have discovered that I like it most now that I don't have clutters and piles
Junk
of
mail.
paperwork everywhere. Like
Yeah.
I
You get rid
literally,
of it.
I digitally just say no, 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 yes, no, no. It's so incredible, this service. I swear, I can't believe it only cost me like a couple $100 a year. So to have somebody, sort of sift
Go
through
through your
that
mail.
stuff. Yeah, totally. Which, you think, oh, somebody's going through my mail.
We don't have anything that
Yeah.
private anyway. Like,
I
what do you
don't
really
care.
have? Like,
Yeah.
so no, for us, it's incredible. We get just what we want. Like, he will look at it on his phone and he'll know there's two letters coming, one from a doctor bill and
Yep.
the other one from maybe an insurance, car
Yeah,
insurance.
just more paperwork
whatever.
that is essential required paperwork. But, all the credit card offers, all the, sales
Gone.
pitches,
They don't
all
come
that.
in.
It's like ding, 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 done. Seriously. So if you haven't had a chance yet, please head on over to skiptownallstars.com/anytime and figure out how Anytime Mailbox can fit into your life. I promise you, you're going to come up with more than a few reasons. And I think that's it for our 2022 episodes.
That's crazy. That's so crazy.
I think if we've been doing it for a calendar year, I think this would technically be season 2 we're about to start. But
I know. So it's like season 1.5.
we're like season 0.5.
Yeah.
But anyway, it's been a dream. Thank you for all the opportunities to interact with you.
Yes.
We hope you guys have a happy, happy new year. Hope your holidays are going swell. And we will talk to you soon.
Yes. And look, we have loved any and all comments we receive.
Even from the trolls.
Even from the trolls.
It means we're doing something right now that we have trolls and
oh
haters.
My God, I love that. Yeah. We get messages on YouTube. We get messages on Instagram. We get messages on Facebook. And we love them. It means that you're engaged and we like to be engaged with you. So if there's something you want to hear, please, by all means, shoot us an email. And if we can make it happen, we will.
That's a wrap for 2022. Take them out.
Empty nest, full
Full
tank.
tank.
Check the mic and make sure it sound right, boys.